Dear colleagues, now the floor is given to Ministry of Defense spokesman on ATO-related issues, Colonel Andriy Lysenko. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Now, the information about events that happened in the ATO zone during the last 24 hours. The Lugansk sector yesterday, there was increase in the number of intensity of the use of heavy weapons by the enemy, and the main flash spot was Krymsky village. The occupants violated ceasefire 7 times. Heaviest were 6 and 7 shelling that happened late in the evening. The enemy used mortars and cannons of 152 mm of caliber and tanks. In 1.5 hours, the occupants launched about 150 shells of different caliber. In Popasnyansky region, the enemy shelled mainly all our positions, and residential quarters suffered. In 2 buildings of Popasna, windows were damaged. The main military actions were during the second part of the day. On the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Lugansk sector, there were 18 enemy shelling, including 16 with the use of heavy weapons. The Donetsk sector, the military actions are near Avdiivka and neighboring positions. And deterioration of the situation started after 3 p.m. and the enemy delivered fire from southern and eastern direction, Spartakis and Novata, and they used mortars and tanks of the militants. And enemy shelling lasted without break for 8.5 hours, and in flanks positions near Kamenka and Shakhta Putevka, the militants also used mortars. And there is no electricity supply in Avdiivka. Repair workers cannot work in condition of active military actions caused by the aggression of the enemy. They created a stock of potable water because the Donetsk filtration station is out of operation. And the situation in Donetsk sector is tense. Mainly in Svetlodarsk, Balch, Gorlovka perimeter, Zaitsev, Verkhnyataretska, the Donetsk airport. Enemy shelling continued throughout the day and at night, and occupants regularly used mortars and tanks. And on the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Donetsk sector, there were 34 enemy shellings, including 16 with the use of heavy weapons. The Mariupol sector. Yesterday, there was an increase of number of artillery shelling delivered by the enemy. Mostly, this is about Pavlopil, Shirokina part of front line, and also Krasnogorovka and Novogrigorievka. As previously, the occupants massively used mortars. In Vodina and Gnutova, the militants several times shelled using Grad P system. So there is no calm areas at the front line yesterday, and Ukrainian forces were forced to return fire. In Mariupol area yesterday, there were 42 enemy shelling, 25 with the use of heavy weapons. During the last 24 hours, in the result of the military actions, no Ukrainian serviceman was killed, but 10 servicemen were wounded. And 2 of them, these are the servicemen of the National Guard of Ukraine, and the rest from the Armed Forces of Ukraine. And also 1 serviceman died in hospital. He was heavily wounded in his head in the course of enemy fire in Marinka on the 12th of March. Our hearts go out to the relatives of the serviceman who died. Ukrainian military intelligence informed about 1 more episode of friendly fire in the ranks of the militants. The militants from engineering detachment of so-called 9th Regiment set a mine in a gray zone at the front line, and during this event the militants shelled them, and as a result 2 occupants were killed and 3 were wounded. In Kharkivshina, bodyguards detained 2 men who are suspected to be the militants, and the passengers of the car that crossed the border from the side of Russia. There were documents issued in temporarily occupied territory. They had the document for the name of Leshy and Rovinske Cossack Army, and They also seized application of one of the men to join the militants. Officers of Lithuanian, Poland, and Ukrainian brigade take part in a Rapid Trident 2017 Ukrainian-American training at International Center of Peacekeeping and Security, the National Academy of Land Forces of Ukraine. They jointly had the training with the U.S. specialist to rehearse the operations at the level of division. The graduates of National University of Defense of Ukraine, named after Ivan Chernyakhovsky, presented the President of Ukraine with the symbolic shield of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. On behalf of the university, Colonel Alexander Himchenko and the hero of Ukraine, Yevgeny Vyzhevikin, presented this gift to the president. Former serviceman of 28th Detached Mechanized Brigade, who is professional welder Sergei Vasyukin, created this symbolic shield. He was wounded, and then he was discharged from the Armed Forces of Ukraine because of his health. And this symbolic shield with a cross was created in 4 days, and it weighs 80 kilos, and it was created from the fragments of shells with which Russian occupants shelled the peaceful towns and cities in Donbass and Ukrainian positions. 7 trucks went through Novotroitsky checkpoint, bringing 121 tons of products and hygienic kits from International Committee of Red Cross for the residents of occupied territories. This is all. If you have questions, please ask. Maxim Labov, Fifth Channel, about the shelling after midnight. So about today, what happened today? At midnight this day, we have 12 shellings at Ukrainian positions, one of them 2 mortar shelling with the use of 82mm caliber mortars, and this happened at night in the region of Lugansk. All other shellings were delivered with the use of small arms, and Ukrainian forces, they adhere to the ceasefire and do not return fire. One more, and about 2 National Guardsmen that were wounded at the front line. What were the circumstances? One of them was wounded in the region of Shirokina, and one blew up on an explosive device near Zaitsevo. If there are no questions, thank you and goodbye.